Kodai Senga delivered his best start of the season on Tuesday night, going 7 scoreless against the Philadelphia Phillies. On the show today, I'll recap the game and the change that Kodai Senga made with his arsenal that made him more effective and moving forward that could really turn him into a frontline starter. We're doing a deep dive in Senga on today's edition of Locked On Mets.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan. You can also find some of my writing, justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment matter more by visiting FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Now, Mets versus Phillies first meeting of the season, and the Mets get a victory, and it was largely because Kodai Senga was brilliant. 7 innings for Senga, 9 strikeouts, no walks, 1 hit allowed. And while the 1 hit allowed might get more of the headlines, the no walks was the bigger one for me. Kodai Senga in this game looked amazing. And I'm going to do a deeper dive into his arsenal throughout the year and why that goes fork has been so impressive. But I think what stood out most about this start from Senga, I mean, obviously threw 66 strikes out of 100 pitches. I feel like the perfect start for a pitcher, and it's obviously, going, 9 inning shutout, but like the perfect reasonable start for a pitcher is 7 innings, 100 pitches. There's nothing like that momentum that kind of builds when a starting pitcher has been dealing all game and you get to the 7th inning, they have 2 outs, 2 strikes on the hitter, and they're sitting at 99 pitches. And you just have that feeling, particularly when Kyle Schwarber's up, but just in general, that pitcher's going to get a strikeout. It's going to end on a perfect 100 pitches. And that's what this game was for Senga. It was complete domination. I think the thing that stood out to me the most is he was more willing to throw the ghost fork for a strike, to start it up in the zone a little bit more, to attack the lower part of the zone, and even at times just throw the ghost fork for a strike down the middle, and trust that the nastiness of that pitch is something that batters just could not square up. And it's not like he was going through a team of complete scrubs. Granted, Phillies lineup has not been good this year, but Bryson Stott, 726 OPS, he's hitting 287 on the year. Not like he's horrible. 0 for 4 a day. Trey Turner, he's had a really bad season. Still, though, it's Trey Turner, 0 for 3. Nick Castellanos hitting 295 this year, 806 OPS, 0 for 3. Obviously, no one got hits other than Cody Clemens, surprisingly enough. But to see Schwarber strike out 2 out of 3 at bats. Realmuto got a walk, but that was, against the bullpen. But you just go up and down this lineup, and no one touched him. It was complete domination from jump for Kodai Senga. And he retired the last 14 batters he faced. The only one that he didn't retire was that hit by Clemens, which what inning did that come in? Was it the third? Yeah, the top of the 3rd inning. He made it, almost through the batting order. And then from there, just didn't give up anything. And the thing about it, too, is there was some good defense played behind Kodai Senga in this one. Nick Castellanos nearly homered, nearly did. But Brandon Nimmo, who has just turned himself into an exceptional defensive center fielder, he goes up and he robs it. And that was a big moment of the game, a turning point. Senga getting that help from his defense. And then later, Nimmo made another really good running catch. And it's also just great to see Nimmo celebrate the home run robberies. There's something so cool and uncool about Brandon Nimmo when he robs a home run. He looks incredibly cool when he makes the catch. And his celebration, how fired up he gets is awesome. But you also know in those moments how uncool he is as well. It's just the nerd athlete that or the nerd uber athlete, honestly, who finds a way to make these plays and has just gotten so much better. I remember a point in time where the thought of Nimmo even hanging in center field was really in doubt. And he has just consistently got himself to this point where he makes incredible reads. He gets into that top flight speed that he has much quicker than he used to, and getting choked up a little bit, or I had something caught in my throat. You can decide what happened there. But yeah, man, it's awesome to see. And then how do you follow up a robbery? Hit one out next inning. That's what the Mets did. Francisco Lindor got a pitch, center cut, let her high, knew what to do with it from Ranger Suarez, deposited into the seats, 104.6 miles per hour off the bat, over 400 feet for Lindor, 10th of the season. That would have been the only run the Mets needed, but they got some insurance for Senga, or for the bullpen, but to make Senga rest a little bit easier as he got out of the game in the bottom of the seventh. It was Starling Marte who had the base hit. Jeff McNeil tried to bunt for a hit, I think, but it goes down to the sacrifice, advancing Marte up. Tommy Pham draws a walk. And then Eduardo Escobar able to find a hole. How hard he hit that ball? 63.6 miles per hour. I thought so. Just grounded it right up the middle and was able to get that thing into the outfield. It was deflected by Trey Turner, but it was able to get away from him enough that Marte, with his speed and running with 2 outs, able to come around to score easily. And at one point the Mets felt like they needed that one because Adam Ottavino came in and walked the leadoff man in the 8th. You're thinking, oh, here we go. Ottavino hasn't been great this year, and here is the bullpen going to blow a masterpiece by Senga. Luckily, though, Francisco Alvarez showed off the chooch, and Jeff McNeil the athleticism. An incredible catch and tag by McNeil. Alvarez kind of throwing into the runner of Real Muto, and you get that out, and it was a strike him out, throw him out, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it? No, that was just the first out of the inning. There was a ground out to Jeff McNeil, and then a strikeout of Brandon Marsh, and Ottavino gets out of that one. And, 9th inning, David Robertson comes on in for the save, strikes out the first batter, gives up a hit, but then gets the game-ending double play. The 9th save of the season for David Robertson, who's sporting a 1.54 ERA. And just a nice, tidy 2-0 victory for your Mets. I mean, look, offensively, did I say on yesterday's show that Suarez hasn't been good this year, so I bet he'll be good against the Mets? I certainly thought it, if I didn't say it. And he was. He pitched well. Mets only got 6 hits. Again, struggling against a lefty. Would they draw 3 walks? But when you get pitching like that from Senga, it does not matter. And moving forward, Senga's that guy, and Verlander and Scherzer pitched to the back of the baseball card. The Mets might have a really special rotation. So I want to really do a deep dive into Senga's season, now a third of the way through, 10 starts in. So we'll get to that in just a minute. Before we do, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. This is the NBA Finals right now, and if you want to make a fast break to FanDuel, this is the perfect time because new customers are going to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. It's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel offers great promotions every day. It's a safe and secure app, and you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. If you want to bet on the Mets, you can do that as well. You can do a same-game parlay, so you want to bet on, like tonight, you could have bet on the over on strikeouts for Senga, Francisco Lindor to hit a home run, and the money line for the Mets to win, and you would have cashed out pretty big. So if you want to get in on the action, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets back. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. The Mets play the Phillies again tonight, 7:10 Eastern time. Catch every pitch of the Mets hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Mets. Now, Kodai Senga has made 10 starts for the Mets up to this point. 55 innings pitched, 70 strikeouts. That's elite stuff. He is a really good strikeout artist, and it's because of that ghost fork. Looking at the breakdown, okay, if you take that, what he did over 10 starts with a 3.44 ERA, he times it by 3. If he gives you this exact production for the next 2/3 of the season, you'd be looking at a pitcher who's making $15 million, who'd go 165 innings, would have 210 strikeouts with a sub 3.5 ERA. That is a great contract. Even better, get him at home. This guy is on a different planet. At Citi Field right now, through 5 starts at home, 1.20 ERA, 0.93 whip. Now you get him on the road, different story. 6.12 ERA, 1.84 whip. At home, batters are hitting 136 against him. On the road, 287. 5 home runs allowed on the road, 1 at home. So there's something happening there. He really likes pitching at Citi Field. It's better that way than the other way. It's better to be, good at the mound that you're going to be at consistently, and need to find something on the road than just being some road warrior that for whatever reason in front of the home crowd just can't, find any success. It's also gonna make you a lot more popular. I think this year's Senga starts have probably been the best nights at Citi with the ghost fork, strikeout countdown. It's been a lot of fun. And in May, he's gotten better than he was in April. Okay, so in May, that's 3 starts at home, 2 on the road. April is the other way around. But 2.79 ERA in May, 4.15 ERA in April. And again on the season, 3.44. Now, looking more specifically at what he did this start and what could moving forward really help propel him to a different stratosphere. Obviously, it's the throwing strikes, but it's that ghost fork in the zone to me that stands out. And it's also the elimination of his sweeper, throwing it less. At first we thought, okay, this is a guy that's going to be able to go fastball, ghost fork, sweeper. That ghost fork is the only off-speed pitch, the only breaking pitch, so to speak, that he needs. That pitch is disgusting. He doesn't need a sweeper. And opposing hitters have identified his sweeper very well. This year, they're hitting 368 against it, slugging over 1,000. 4 home runs of the 6 that he's allowed are on the sweeper. Tonight, he threw the sweeper twice. So the difference that we saw with Senga tonight, he attacked the zone more, but what he did is he went more cutter and more ghost fork. As good as that ghost fork has been, he's only thrown it about 22% of the time this year. Tonight, it was 29% of the time. The thing about it is that pitch does not get squared up at all. The hard hit percentage against his ghost fork this year is at 6.7%. Among pitches that have been thrown at least 100 times this year, that is the 3rd lowest among any pitch in baseball. There's Luis Garcia of the Padres. His slider has not been hit hard literally at all. You have Carlos Carrasco, shockingly enough, his changeup at 5.3%, and then it's the ghost fork at 6.7%. So if he starts throwing it for strikes more, okay, if he's sitting 3-2, instead of throwing a ghost fork that ends up, out of the zone entirely and hoping a guy chases, throw that ghost fork in the zone, because either they're going to just stare at it or they're going to identify that it's going to be a strike and they're going to try to hit it. And one or two things is going to happen. Either one, they're going to swing through it anyway, which we saw a lot tonight. 2, they're going to foul it off weakly. Or 3, it's probably going to be weak contact. Not to say that it's impossible to hit that pitch out of the ballpark. I'm sure he can hang it. But if he throws that pitch correctly with the movement that he gets on it, you're not going to get hurt by that pitch often. And so I really like that little tweak I saw from this one. If you look at kind of the heat map of when he throws that pitch this year, everything is at the bottom or out of the zone. And tonight I saw numerous occasions where he threw that pitch a little more up in the zone, and I love that. And I also like the elimination of the sweeper, go more cutter, fastball, forkball as your arsenal. And I think you're going to see a lot more success from Senga, particularly in limiting the walks, which have been the biggest issue for him up to this point. Now, a little bit more numbers into that ghost fork, okay? In this start, 18 swings on the ghost fork. 12 of them were whiffs. So that's a whiff percentage of 67%. Here are the other instances where people actually put a bat on the ball. 4 foul balls, 2 balls put in play. What were the 2 balls put in play? It was not the one single he gave up. One was a pop out, one was a ground out. That's the recipe for him. Now, also, you look at the strikeout mix, 9 Ks, 6 of them swinging strikeouts on the forkball, 2 swinging strikeouts on the cutter, 1 on the fastball. When this guy strikes people out, it seems like they're always trying to hit the ball and they swing right through it. They just can't square him up. The whiff percentage on his forkball this year is at 57.3%. Over half the time, a batter swings at that pitch, they can't put a bat to the baseball, not even to foul it off. And again, I already mentioned the hard hit percentage. Now you have run value. Now, run value, it's an inexact science, but it also does give you an idea of kind of game outcome based on pitches used. So let's just say the bases are loaded and Kodai Senga uses a forkball to strike out Trey Turner. There's going to be a run value attached to it of the runs he saved by making that pitch. Now, for another instance, he throws the sweeper and gives up a grand slam. Well, that puts 4 runs on the board. That's going to be a run value of 4, I believe. So it goes based on outcome. So in some senses, right, the fact that his cutter is at a -5 run value compared to his forkball at -2 is a little bit more on circumstance because he has probably gotten big outs with the cutter with runners on base where he gets a ground ball or a fly out or whatever it is, where he didn't trust that forkball because maybe, the count was full. And so he went to the cutter and got a big out. But what run value shows us this year based on his arsenal is it clearly points to those 3 pitches that we've been discussing as the weapons he should be going to. And maybe this is something that, here's a guy who talked about wanting to be in a franchise that had an analytics department. Maybe this is something that they've figured out. The run value on his fastball this year is at -2. The run value on his cutter is -5. The run value on his forkball is -2. His sweeper's run value is 4. That's +4. So he's been giving up runs when throwing that sweeper. Again, he gave up 4 home runs with it. Here was the last stat I pulled on Kodai Senga before we get into the final segment, which is what's a successful season for Senga? And how do we know they made the right decision in free agency this year by signing him? So we're going to get to that to close out the show. Last stat I pulled, 58 plate appearances this season have ended on a ghost fork. You know what the strikeout percentage is on those plate appearances? 56.9% of the plate appearances that end in a forkball, 33 of them out of 58 have been strikeouts. And a lot of times when it's not a strikeout, it's either weak contact put in play or it's been a walk. And so if he can, instead of on 3-2, throw that forkball and try to get someone to chase, if he can either dot it at the bottom of the zone or hell, throw it belt high and trust the movement of the pitch that they're not going to square it up, man, he's going to cut down the walks, probably up the strikeouts, and more importantly, he's going to have less traffic on the bases and be able to find even greater success. So I love this start from Senga. How could you not? And it only, to me, promises for some loftier expectations and more excitement in the future. That's what I want to get to next here. Where can this go for Senga by the end of the year? What is a successful season? Get to that in just a minute. First, though, another word from our sponsors. All right, so what is a successful season for Kodai Senga? I told you what his year would be if he just duplicated these 10 starts 2 times over. 165 innings, 210 strikeouts, 3.44 ERA. I'd sign on the dotted line for that right now, particularly because of the 30 starts element of it. If you could tell me that they're going to get a healthy Senga for all 30 and he's going to strike out over 200, that's, on opening day, if you told me that was the outcome, again, I would have taken that. But to me, a successful season for Kodai Senga, it happens in the wild card round is where it becomes a success. Not to say the Mets can't win this division, but if you listen to this show yesterday, where I compared all these teams, the Braves are just the best team in this division right now. And if you don't believe that, you're fooling yourself. They're a really good ball club, and they're going to be tough to catch. Maybe the Mets can. But right now, as things are trending, I look more towards make sure you get that top wild card seed. So instead of looking up at the Braves, and hey, if the Mets have an incredible June where they go and they win a bunch of series and they get some sweeps and they go, like 18-7 or something, or 18-8. I don't know how many games they play in June. But they have a great June, and they go into Atlanta and they take 2 or 3, and this division gets closer. Maybe we change the math. But right now, I'm looking at that top wild card. And I say, can the Mets chase down the Arizona Diamondbacks? Yes. Are the Padres ever going to put it all together? They're in worse straits than the Mets are for sure. You look at the Central. Is there any team that scares you too much? I mean, yeah, maybe the Cardinals make a push, but they haven't been good this year. Cubs could make a push. The Reds call up Ellie De La Cruz and they make a push. Probably not. The Pirates hang in all year. Look, it seems like the Brewers are going to win a kind of lifeless division. So again, you look at the top wild card seed, and then it's just a matter of beating the teams in your own division. You see the Mets go up against the Phillies. I think that's a realistic possibility. So then you get to a scenario where the Mets are sitting in the exact same place they were last year, hosting a wild card series to try to enter the divisional round. You got Scherzer and Verlander games 1 and 2. Ideally, Kodai Senga doesn't pitch into the divisional round. But let's just say you get to a game 3, and it's Kodai Senga instead of Chris Bassett from last year. That right there is why you signed Senga instead of Bassett. It's not for the 30 starts of the regular season, because honestly, I would imagine Chris Bassett would perform a little bit better over a full regular season. It's a guy who has navigated this league time and again and is a veteran's veteran, right? Kodai Senga has in him what we just saw tonight. 1 hit allowed, no walks, 9 strikeouts. He has the pitch where if there's second and third in a tight playoff game with all the marbles, and he's 3-2, he could throw that ghost fork and get a big strikeout and get out of a jam. If they're a cutter, get a double play ball. Kodai Senga has better stuff than Chris Bassett. Chris Bassett is a better MLB pitcher right now. And so it's about bridging that gap over the next 20 starts and being in a position to perform. But I'll tell you what, the way Kodai Senga has pitched at Citi Field this year, I feel pretty good about him starting game 3 of a wild card round. And if Kodai Senga delivers in that spot, you get into the divisional round and then you start to make a run, that's going to end up being the best move that Billy Epler and the Mets front office made this offseason. And I know it's probably the one that they were the most excited about. So we'll see how it continues to pan out. But this start was very promising for where this season could end up. Anyway, that's going to be all for today's edition, Locked On Mets. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. If you want to catch every pitch of the Mets hometown broadcast at 7:10 Eastern tonight, you can do so on SiriusXM with the SXM app. Just search Mets.